page 92 to 96. So Goldie Wilson tells George to stand up for himself and that Goldie is going to make something of himself one day. And in the movie Marty gets excited and slips up and says,
"That's right, he's gonna be mayor."
And Goldie says,
"Man, Goldie Wilson. I like the sound of that."
George Gipe has helpfully supplied us with an example of how to totally extract all charm from the scene.
Marty, Goldie. Would that be Goldie Wilson, by any chance? Goldie, that's me. And you can just remember that name, because, like I said, it's gonna mean something one day. Marty, he's right. As a matter of fact, he's gonna be mayor of Hill Valley someday. Goldie, mayor? That's a good idea. I could show folks how to run this town. I wouldn't be a cheap politician on the take all the time. I'll be honest and efficient. You got a crystal ball or something? How do you know I'm gonna be mayor? Marty, I just know, that's all. Goldie, when's it gonna happen? Marty sighs. Marty, do you really want to know? Goldie, of course, man. Tell me. I want to know when it's gonna happen? Marty, because it's a ways off. You might not want to wait that long. Goldie, no, it's all right. Something like that's worth waiting for. Besides, I'll know that nothing will happen to me between now and then, right? Marty, you'll be elected during the late 70s. Goldie, my 70s or the 1970s? Marty, the 1970s.
In this vintage book is in quotations, the characters behave charmlessly, Marty wearily sighing because the dude asks him a reasonable question. Plus we get needless words, including all that forced confusion about which late 70s Marty's talking about. Gosh, I know that when someone says something like this club is having an 80s night I say, do you mean for people in their 80s? Guess I can't go then. P.S. This is my first time speaking English. Anyway, during all this George is making like a tree and getting out of there, or to put it another way, he's making like everyone in the theater if this version of the movie had been produced, and is totally sneaking out the back. George doesn't like this Marty character, who
seemed almost from another world, so assured, calm, who dressed strangely, who wore his hair in an unusual way.
I don't really like Book Marty either, so I'm with kinda George on this. But then George gets his book-mandated dose of crazy and concludes Marty is probably
dabbling in the occult.
What with all his future knowledge?
Better to remain in the dark than be forced to think about some unavoidable tragedy or struggle,
he decides. Marty finishes up his Goldie conversation and
rather pleased at himself for inspiring Goldie Wilson.
And wow, why is inspiring in quotes, because it just happened and Goldie was indeed literally inspired. Again, all I can say is haha, oh well. Then Marty notices George is gone. In the book he just notices without incident, which means he doesn't do this, which is too bad, because I love it and could stare at this gif all day. Marty tries to follow him, but George walks away and Marty
suddenly remembered that his father had grown up on Sycamore Street, near 2nd.
So he decides to slow down a bit and consider his feelings.
He wasn't certain exactly where he wanted his relationship with the young George McFly to go.
Hello exclamation mark.
The man, despite his failings, did survive the next 30 years. That was something. Nevertheless, Marty felt a compulsion to have at least one heart-to-heart talk with him. Perhaps, if nothing else, he could say something that would free George McFly of Biff Tannen's bullying for the next 3 decades. Wouldn't that be a wonderful present? Marty said aloud as he walked.
It would indeed be a warm and wonderful present, Marty. Up next, Dad's a Peeping Tom.